today we have my fiance Benna here, and we are making fire starters from stuff you have laying around the house. So I don't really know how to make these, but she does, and they work really well. We use them all the time. So we'll show a demonstration burning one after we make some here.
Alright, so these are very simple to make with several things you can find right in your house. The first thing is a cardboard egg carton, just a regular egg carton from the grocery store. The next thing is wax of some sort. So I like to use leftover candles we don't like anymore, candles that we're done with. That way we don't have to buy wax for the project, so that makes it cheap and sometimes free. And then we're also going to use dryer lint. I just save it every few loads. I'll just stick a little bit in a bag, and it adds up pretty quick. So you don't need a whole bunch. And then the other thing you'll need is sawdust. So I just have a bag of sawdust. We save sawdust from projects, and I just always have a bag here. Once again, you're just going to use a very little bit, so you don't need a ton. So the first thing you want to do is you will put water into a pot. You're going to melt your wax, kind of like a double boiler type of method. So you want to boil a little bit of water in a pot, and then you're going to take a measuring cup or something that you can safely put into boiling water, and you're going to melt your wax in that. So my water's already a little bit hot. I'm going to go ahead and stick a couple pieces of leftover candles into the measuring cup, and once that heats up, it's just going to start melting down. So we'll just let that go, and we're going to start putting our sawdust and dryer lint into the sections of the egg carton. So what I like to do is cut the egg carton in half, and then I just put the top piece underneath. We're only going to use the sides that are sectioned, and this way, if any wax leaks through before it dries, you'll have something to protect it or to catch it. So we're going to go ahead and fill up our little sections. We're going to start with a little bit of sawdust at the bottom, a little pinch of dryer lint, and we're going to fill each section with that, and then ultimately we'll dump wax over top of each section, and it'll form a little solid wax ball of dryer lint and sawdust. So we're just going to go ahead and get started on that.
And with this deal here, she's got a handle on her measuring cup, so it locks on the side of the pot. So that's
and then
kind
when
of
it
clever.
melts, you can just pour it right on, so it makes it super easy. So I'm just using a little teaspoon. You don't have to fill them very full because you do want to have enough space to get wax in there to kind of hold everything together.
So a spoonful of sawdust. Turn this down.
It'll probably boil over a little bit, but it's okay. There's only probably an inch and a half of water in there, so.
Wax is starting to melt down.
Okay, so after I get sawdust in each section, I'm just going to take a little pinch of dryer lint, just kind of press it onto the top. Once again, this should still leave you room around the edges and then down in each section to be filled with wax.
Show them that once you get. So you can see the first layer, sawdust, and then a glob of
Lint.
dryer lint. Who would have thought there was a use for that?
Okay, so this one's ready to go. All we need to do is wait for some of the wax to melt, and then we're just gonna pour wax over each section until each section is full, but I'll show you how to fill them up when the wax is ready.
I know I'm not very helpful, but this is her project and I'm learning this too. I just thought it'd be something cool to share. We use them all the time to start our fires, and they work great.
They usually burn, at least 5-10 minutes? So enough to get your fire going.
Sometimes you find weird things in your dryer lint, like one of the flosser.
Alright, so once you have a little bit of wax melted, it doesn't all need to be melted to get started. You're just gonna pour it right out of your measuring cup, right into the egg carton. I start with a little bit in each section, and then it'll kind of sink down. You will have to go back over and add more. But just to give you an idea of what it looks like when the wax goes in there. And as we melt more, we'll just continue to add more.
All right. Got a good bit more melted down. Letting it soak in all the lint and sawdust. And then she's going to do a second pour over it. So she's got that larger candle and she's cutting it down into smaller chunks so it melts easier. Try not to make a mess when you do it. Careful.
As you're melting your wax, you may have to add more water to the boiling part. If you notice it's getting low, the higher you can keep it, the higher on the measuring cup it'll heat. Alright, I'm gonna pour some more.
And if you move the wax around, it helps melt it down faster. And then once you have your liquid wax on the bottom and add more wax to it as you go, it helps melt it faster. So she keeps adding wax as she pours it out. We've used about 4 or 5 candles. Well, there's still some left in there from the first, but it takes a good bit of wax.
Okay, so as long as your dryer lamp is covered and everything is like kind of sealed in there together, then you're at a good level for as much wax as you need. So you're just gonna set it to the side, let everything dry, and then move on to your next ones with the rest of the wax.
How long do you think they need to dry? Just until the wax is hard?
I usually wait overnight at least. They'll look like they're dry pretty quickly. They'll still be warm to the touch, and after they're totally dry, you're going to break them apart. If you try to break them apart too soon, the cardboard will start to tear. So you want to wait till they're totally dry, totally cool, and then the cardboard will just crack apart instead of tearing, so it makes it much easier.
Do you cut them or tear them apart?
I usually just tear them. You can cut them if you want to be neat. I figure we're just burning them, so I don't really care what they look like, but you could definitely cut them for a neater appearance.
So these ones are pretty much done and they'll be drying for a day, overnight, and then we'll break them up and they'll be ready to go. We already have some that are ready to go. Also, most people probably know, but just in case, don't use styrofoam egg cartons, only use the cardboard ones. The styrofoam will just melt away when you pour the hot wax and it won't be good. So only use the cardboard egg cartons. That's the disclaimer. Alright, that's the last of the loose wax that we had. All melted down. Spilling a little bit. So you're just filling them up level, basically?
Yeah, pretty much. I try to make sure all the lint's covered, that way it kind of like makes it solid. Makes it easier to break apart if there's no like hairs and stuff that are loose in there.
And you can buy candles cheap at, I don't know, the dollar store or Walmart, just like the cheapest ones if you need more wax. Because it takes a good bit of wax. This was probably about 5 candles, one really big candle.
We also have, like, we've bought those little wax cubes and stuff. If we don't like the fragrance, we'll just save them for
melters.
a project like this and melt them down eventually. So one other thing that you can try, we're going to use this for our last little section that we still need wax in, is we have the bottom of a jar candle that we're not going to use anymore. So we're going to melt that down to use.
When you're done burning a candle, she saves all the bottom part of the wax that is unusable and melts them down for this.
That keeps our project free. So we're just going to stick this right into our about 1.5 to 2 inches of boiling water. If you have more candle in there and your pot's a little thicker, you can heat up as much water as will cover the candle. Ours is coming right about to the top of how much candle's in there. So you're just going to let your water boil. This is basically another double boiler, and the wax in there will melt. The only thing you want to be careful with is removing the jar. So I'm going to get my jar grabber from canning, and I'll show you how to get the jar out of there safely. Okay, so our jar candle is starting to melt in the boiling water. I'm using a jar grabber from canning, and I'm just going to grab it out of there and pour it as carefully as I can, just like this.
Let's take some skills there. Looks like pickled eggs in there. Fill them up to the top. Alright, so we are done with filling in the wax. Now we'll take them out to the garage, let them sit overnight, and then tomorrow we'll break them up into individual pieces, and then you got your fire starters. Now we'll burn one and show you how long they last and how they work. Cheers.
Cheers.
So it's the next day, all the wax is hard, and we're gonna go ahead and break them up into individual fire starters.
So I normally just break them apart because I don't care what they look like, but if you want, you can cut them apart, and an easy way to do that is just to cut this thing off, and then you can cut down through there, but I'm not going to bother. They do break apart pretty easily.
And then there's your finished fire starters. So I've placed one of the fire starters in there in our wood burner. There's only one log in there. I didn't want to put more logs to where you can't see the fire starter. And these are what the finished product looks like. They're all just covered in wax, and they work well. We use them all the time. I'm gonna start a stopwatch on my phone, and we're gonna time how long this fire starter lasts. All right, let's light this. This is how easy it lights. All right, done with the aim and flame, and it's lit. I'm going to start the stopwatch. And this might not actually light the log off real well because I only have one log in there with the fire starter on the front side. But they work well. If I put another log in there and stack the logs, it would light off. Alright, it just went out at 10 minutes and 40 seconds. So we almost got 11 minutes out of that little fire starter. And if we would have had more wood in there, the fire would be going pretty good. So we got 11 minutes out of one of these fire starters. And we hit it with a match or an aim and flame, and it lights instantly, and it burns until there's nothing left. We use these all the time. We've never had a problem with them. They're not gonna work if they get wet, but for in the house, starting your fire, or in a fire pit, they work great, and they don't leave a mess in the fireplace. I clean it out all the time. There's no like wax or anything. So they're pretty much free, byproducts of everything around your house, and a little bit of time. I mean, it probably took us about 45 minutes to make. It takes a while to melt the wax, but if you have a little bit of time, it's easy to do. And Benna makes them all the time. She just showed me. That's the first time I've seen them being made, but if you like the video, subscribe, and thanks for watching.